either a mic or
Okay.
Or this mic. I think this mic is.
yeah. Hi, I'm Rabbi Weiner.
Hi, I'm Nancy
Nice to
Economo.
meet you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
so much
you.
for being
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
So I was
you.
just explaining, we just have to use a mic because
And then I'll.
I think Marla's introducing. So and just for Q&A, let's make sure that either have people speak in the microphone or that you just repeat the question in that way.
A clock somewhere.
This one is the on button. We do not have a
We don't
clock.
have a clicker.
Let me go find out.
I have a remote.
Just turn it on. I don't know. Is it on now? Okay.
All right, we're just going to wait 1 minute here for one minor detail. But all right, good morning. My name is Marla Gerard, and I'm the chair of the Social Action Committee at Congregation at Chaim. Our committee meets on the first Tuesday evening of every month, and we're always looking for enthusiastic members to join us tackling issues such as food insecurity, voter suppression, immigration rights, affordable housing, environmental issues, interfaith, and much, much more. Every year we have a program to honor Dr. King's legacy by speaking up for social injustice and by educating ourselves about ways to make a difference. And now, Joel Spenadol will introduce our amazing guest speaker who has made a tremendous difference in so many lives.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Dr. King spoke those words just over 65 years ago. Today, they aptly describe the work of Watts of Love, a groundbreaking charitable organization founded a decade ago just down Highland Avenue by this year's MLK Day program guest speaker, Nancy Economo. I met Nancy in 2021 after my daughter Hannah was hired as a development coordinator for Watts of Love. Soon thereafter, in a conference room in Watts' downtown Downers Grove headquarters, Nancy told me the story of the organization's founding, and based on her excitement in doing so, it seemed like the first time she was telling it. But I know she had done so hundreds of times in many different venues. It certainly is an exciting story, and you'll get to hear it here this morning. I'll be honest, nothing in Nancy's background other than love and light in her heart and capacity for hard work pointed to the creation of a charity that would alleviate poverty and suffering, provide hope and education, and build self-esteem and self-reliance for tens of thousands of the poorest people in the world, many of whom are women without the ability otherwise to improve their lives. Nancy's resume before founding Watts of Love a decade ago included working as a successful jewelry salesperson and then raising 5 boys in the western suburbs of Chicago. I am privileged to teach Tikkun Olam, that's Repair of the World, to the confirmation class at Etz Chaim. Back in December, the 10th grade students identified many of the world's problems, and then right before winter break, each picked a charity that is fixing at least one of those problems. Some of those presentations, which were made this morning. Watts of Love is an organization that is fixing many of those problems all at once, most of which you'll be able to identify after hearing Nancy's talk and watching the movie Ukwati, The Wedding, which was made by Nancy's son and released last summer and including a premiere at showing at Tivoli Theater, which my family and I were very fortunate to be able to attend. For her remarkable efforts, Nancy has received many accolades, including being named the International Women Associates 2022 Woman of the Year. However, no award can compare to the smile and obvious pleasure of the recipients of the solar lights given out by Watts of Love. Part of Nancy's job and that of senior leaders of her organization, like Christy Owens, who's in back, the Director of Operations, is to travel around the globe to distribute lights and witness the wonderful work of Watts' staff in more than 50 countries in which they operate. Dr. King famously told us of his dream nearly 60 years ago on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in our nation's capital. Watts of Love also has a dream. In the words of their founder, we have a big dream. It starts with one light for one family and leads to one world illuminated with hope and financial literacy. I'm asking for you to help this dream come true. Please welcome Nancy Economo.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much. Hannah, so good to see you. Thank you for welcoming me here today. I live right here in Downers Grove. I'm actually going to step behind the podium so I can control the pictures. My words are great, but the pictures kind of tell more of the story than me. So yeah, Watts of Love began with a dream. Oh, I can't see a lot of people. In 2008, I had the opportunity. Yeah, can I? That would be great. I feel like I can't see half the crowd. Watts of Love began in 2008. I had the opportunity to go to the Philippines, and my background was in high-end jewelry sales, so I sold jewelry in Chicago to Oprah, Cartier jewelry, so I said I top 1% of the world, and I'm now serving the bottom 1%. And here they all are. And I was a stay-at-home mom here in Downers Grove when I had the opportunity to go to the Philippines. And when I was there, I was really curious. We had gone out for dinner, and it was lovely. I knew that most of the people in the Philippines did not live that way. So I had the opportunity to go to a feeding program. And when I was there was a girl whose face was all burnt. And the teachers were putting toothpaste on her face. And I'm like, well, what happened to her? And they're like, oh, this happens all the time. Children are burnt by kerosene. They don't have lighting. And I'm like, what? People don't have electricity? So it was really kind of awakening for me that people lived in darkness. And then as a mother, I couldn't imagine every single night having no other option except putting my daughter in front of a kerosene flame after her face had been lit on fire. So it was out of that like mother's heart that I came back to Downers Grove, and I'm like, you know, it shouldn't be this way. We should actually do something. And I knew at that point, like there was some solar, you know, but I just felt compelled a difference. So finally in 2012, I thought, okay, I'm going to take this leap of faith and started Watts of Love. And I knew I needed to. My heart was transformed, and I saw that there was such a big problem. And so I decided to bring 1,000 solar lights. Ordered them. I mean, it's just crazy when I look back 10 years ago what I did. Ordered these lights, shipped them to the Philippines, and what happened, 1,000 lights got stuck in customs. So I was like, I'm a failure. I had 3 lights in my suitcase. I told people that I was going to deliver these 1,000 lights. I didn't know. I thought I was going to be like Oprah. Like, hey, you get a light, and you get a light. And like, but I thought I was going to distribute these 1,000 lights, and now I had 3. And I'm on this remote island with thousands of people, and everybody needs a light. So I had to really think and say, okay, I need to identify the people who need the light the most. And what happened is I was slowed down to really see what I was going to be called to do, and it's the pillars of Watts of Love. And so the very first woman that they gave, we gave light to, her name is Nai Nai. And so we're, hi Nai Nai, to give you this solar light. And she said, I cannot love you. I am too poor for you to love me. I've been cursed by God. I've been abandoned by my family, and my government doesn't know I exist. I said, no, you're seen, you're loved, and you are valuable. I thought, wow, I didn't know that a solar light would make me seen and loved. So it was really me learning the impact that this simple act of love and kindness had on people. So the next night, they identified a woman, and her name is Emily, and she was a mother of 7 children. And so this is what a traditional light looks like for their home. It's a kerosene lamp. So if any of you know what like a Molotov cocktail is, you know, it's like a bomb. And so that's what they use every night. And the children, you have to get very close to that. But Emily, with the 7 children, you know, we gave her the light. And I thought, as a mom, what's it like since the beginning of time to and now? So I wake up in the next morning, I run down to Emily's house. I'm like, Emily, what did you do last night? And she said, well, it was really hard putting my children to bed because it was so bright. But she said, I did that. She stayed up, and I made 1,000 bamboo barbecue sticks. I'm like, wow. And she said, yes, I can now have somebody sell these on the mainland for 20 pesos. I'm like, huh. She didn't buy kerosene. Instinctively, she became a business. And she's almost tripled her family's income. I'm like, wow, this. So then that night, Emily said, I'm going to take you people who are going to receive the light. And they lived up on top of a mountain. I don't have her picture. And her name was Ruth. And when we went there, I was talking to Ruth, and I said, what's your circumstances like here? And she said, well, tonight, she said, we didn't have any food. I licked our fingers, dipped it in salt, and we rubbed salt on our tongues to trick our bodies into the fact that we had not eaten. And again, this was a level of poverty that I had never heard of before. So I gave them the light, and I was explaining how to operate it, and the husband said to me, do not share this information with my wife. Only tell me, because my wife has no education and she won't understand what to do. So I was like, okay. Now I tell you this story because I came back after I delivered those 3 lights in my time in the Philippines, but 30 days later, all 1,000 lights were released from customs, and they're like, what are we going to do with these lights, Nancy? So I went back. And the last day that I was there, that uneducated woman that I was not allowed to speak to came down from the mountaintop, and she said, Nancy, I want you to know that my family has never gone hungry when I received the light. I'm like, I don't understand. How has the light been able to feed your family? She said, well, simple. I hide a little bit of money from my husband every day, like I'm buying kerosene. I'm like, oh, she's just like me, right? Like, you know, extra, and she's keeping it because she wants to be able to take care of her children. So it was from those lights that it really taught me the pillars of Watts of Love and financial literacy, which I'm going to get. But I wanted really just to show you some of their homes and kind of the conditions of what people. Our goal is to find the hidden poor. Usually people, remote areas, indigenous people to whatever country we're in. But this is actually in the Philippines and also in other areas in Guatemala. The bed springs wind up for their home so that it's like the air conditioning. The air can still go through it. They may have tarps, but that's very traditional dirt floors. And then again, very traditional homes where we'll go where it's just cardboard and different things like that. But I think it's good, especially for the young people. Sometimes we feel like, we may not have a lot, but This is how maybe a family of 7 is living. So the empowerment model, I knew after we started distributing the lights that it wasn't enough just to bring somebody out of darkness, that we had to teach them. How do you teach somebody who can't count, can't read, has no education, they've never had a savings or a bank in their community? How do you teach financial literacy so that they are empowered? So this is what we came up with. When we go into a community, we may have 1,000. We give 1 light per home. And our local people, we have a large banner. Okay, you no longer are burning kerosene. You have a new light, which means that every day you're going to start saving money. The box that we created, has a little bank. You can see there's a little slit. And this is really important. The slit right here. We say, okay, instead of going to buy the battery or the kerosene, every day you're going to take your money and you're going to put it inside of their bank. And this is such a new concept. They're like, really? So every day you start saving your money. Now you're going to have money for education. You're going to have a bright light. Now your children can study in the evening. Safety and security. Bad things happen in the dark. Snakes come in. Different things happening. Going to the bathroom. You can take care of your family. But then you also have another opportunity. Now that you have this light, like Emily started to create money by making bamboo barbecue sticks. So what business can you create? Making mats. What can you do with the gift of time that you now have this light? So we talk about that at the top half. And this bottom half, we go to day, month, and year. Because they can't count, they usually understand what they spend to buy kerosene. So they understand in a day. And then we'll say in 7 days, if you put 7 days worth of kerosene money or battery money in here, you can go buy a chicken. And that chicken starts to multiply, and then you can go to a pig or a goat or a cow. And slowly we start to tell them stories and engage like where they begin to dream because they've lost hope. They don't see a way out of literally the darkness, and now they start to see hope. So this is what it looks like with our local partners. There we are. We kind of, we do our teaching, the local people, the numbers down here, because we have the community buy-in. We will ask them, okay, what do you spend on kerosene? What do you spend on batteries? And there's this lively conversation happening with the community. And they all start to understand, okay, well, she spends, $5 a day, and you're $1 a day. And, and then we have a general consensus of what's average. And then they understand that in 7 days or 9 days, they can get to a chicken. So I'm going to share a story. This woman's name is also Ruth. It's in Uganda. And she was a grandmother of 11 grandchildren. Her children had both died of AIDS. So she was responsible for all 12 grandchildren. When we met her in June of 2019 and she received the light, the children were not going to school. She could barely feed them. But she knew that this was an opportunity. We went back to Uganda 5 months late, about 4 to 5 months later, and we happened to run into her, and we're like, Ruth, how are you? What's happening? And so we went and said, we'll go back and we'll visit people. And she said, well, come to my house. And she said, when I received my light, I knew it was an opportunity. And within a week, I bought a chicken and another chicken. And then I had my grandchildren selling them the eggs at the market. And then we started to eat chickens, and we started multiplying it. And she said, and then I went out, I traded in 10 chickens, and I bought a pig. And that pig had piglets by the time I was there in less than 5. And she said, but Nancy, if you come back here by January, she said, you see that thatched roof? That's going to be a tin roof. And when we gave her that light in June, she had a vision bigger than she ever imagined. And she was taking step-by-step process to change her life. So now she became the role model for her grandchildren. on how to become an entrepreneur and saving money. And I can gladly tell you that all of the grandchildren are back in school, and she's able to pay for it. So this was our first light. When I first started Watts of Love, I found a light that was being manufactured, and this is what I started to bring, which was a solar panel and a little bit larger light. And I would look at that and I think, I'm shipping air. It's so big that I had a vision for starting to scale and light the world. And if I'm going to scale, I can't be shipping air. And then I also noticed that the solar panel was being stolen. So I designed a backpack because I knew people were subsistence farmers, they were out walking and fishing, so I wanted them to physically be able to wear it on their body. But that wasn't good enough. If we're going to tell people that they can change their lives, I came back and I was able to design and patent. Now for the young people, I had never run a non-for-profit. I didn't have a design background in solar. But if you have a dream in your heart and you have the purpose and the passion to move forward, you can make it happen. So I was able to design and patent my own solar light based on the needs of the people that I was seeing. So I knew that they need to wear it on their body. I also had an experience in Kathmandu, Nepal, where I was at a leper colony and people with different disabilities. The first light that I was giving to the people in this colony where they couldn't push the button. So I knew when I was going to design the light, all people could use it. So I have this large button that now people with disabilities can push it. You can also wear it on your head, going to the bathroom at night. It's simple things like that. Doing your homework, working. Now you have this strap, you can put it on top of your head. You can also hang it inside of your home so that all of the children can study. I'm going to have up here for a minute and hold this. Is that okay? Thank you so much. So this is the light. So in the center, it also has a raised heart. So if you don't have glasses or you can't see, you can actually feel where to push it. The solar panel is on the back, so now it's just one piece instead of a two-piece. You push and hold in the center. Number one will last 120 hours of continuous runtime. Number two will last 10 hours of continuous runtime. Number three is over 275 lumens, and that will last 2.5 hours. And then there's an emergency strobe, and this acts as a 911 communication when they don't have cell phones. The lanyard, now they can wear it on their body. The goal is that they keep it safe. We want all responsibility up to the end user. So now they can wear it. If they're in an area where they feel threatened, they can hide it. Take it off if they're working in the field and have the solar panel getting charged. They can flip it to the back if they're working in the field. They can put it on top of their head and charge it, with the lanyard. So now it's staying on their body. And everything was designed with their lifestyle, harsh environment they live in. So now that we have a product that's working, it's ready for scale, how are we going to start scaling? And in 2019, we came up with a program called the Watts of Love Lighthouse. It's kind of like McDonald's, right? You have people making the hamburgers, doing the work. We wanted to make sure that we engaged the local community so that we're not restricted by the Americans coming and teaching. So our local partner hires 20 local people, and they start distributing. When we go in, every single home in a community receives a light. It's one light per home, and we're going community by community. So doing it that way, there's not as much jealousy. And if you see that your neighbor has a chicken and a goat, and you're like, hey, well, Joel's no better than I am, and he's got a tin roof by now. There's a little bit of friendly competition. So this is our local team that launched the lighthouse in Malawi. Little did I know that a global pandemic was going to happen right after we launched the Watts of Love Lighthouse. So in 2020, we were ready to go, and we had the best years ever. But what I'm so proud of with this team is we do 60% women. We're giving women an opportunity they would never have a voice. In fact, when I asked the men, can you identify 10 women that can get up and train and teach that we can help them? They said, oh, no women can do that. I'm like, well, there has to be 10 women that can do that. And they're like, yeah, no, there's probably not. I'm like, well, if you can't identify them, I will. And guess what? They found 10 women that could. So what we have is usually 60% women. We have the men. And then we've also included in Malawi a young woman, Taramike, who is a person with albinism. And in Malawi, people with albinism are literally hunted and killed because they believe that they're not, that they're ghosts and they just disappear. So we're not making the people with disabilities focused on them, and then they become a target. We're making them part. So this is what it looks like. You know, we don't just hand out the lights, we make sure that everything is done with love, honor, and respect. And so now that we have the Lighthouse program, how are we going to light the world? We have a solution for that. With that Lighthouse program, you can 3 years, I was really on my own, kind of delivering lights, walking through rice paddy fields. And then in 2017, we launched the global travel team where we would take people with us and that they would help fundraise and become part of the solution. So as you guys travel team trip, you can always join us. And so we started to grow when I had Americans coming and help fundraise. But then in 2019 is when we launched that Lighthouse and made it less about the Americans and more about the local people. You can see we really started scaling. So the impact of one light, we expect that this light should last 10 years if the end user is caring for it. So you can see one light is $50. The average is 7 people per home. The global average is $155 they spent in some type of lighting, whether it's kerosene. So this is where it gets interesting. If we distribute 20,000 lights in 1 year, 20,000 times $155 is almost $3 million is saved. That $3 million is already there, but it went towards batteries or kerosene and it was thrown in the garbage dump. We've reharnessed that and we're saying buy a chicken. You already have this money, reinvest it. And then the business. So it is such a significant multiplier for communities. And then hours, the gift of time. Now they, just like Emily, she was able to make bamboo barbecue sticks. What are you going to do to be productive with that gift of 6 hours a day? And then study time for the children. The CO2 is emission, the battery, the land pollution is eliminated because they're not discarding the cheap batteries. So the Lighthouse, that strategy behind the Lighthouse is one region. So basically it's like DuPage. And we're going to go in and we're going to light Lombard. And then we're going to go to Downers Grove. And it's just one community at a time in every single home. And we're going to blanket that area. It's a locally led team. It's a 3-year commitment from Watts of Love. And so people say, well, don't people get mad if Downers Grove didn't get a lights and Lombard did? We said no, because they know that we've committed, so long as we have funding, that we're going to be back next year. So it subsides any type of conflict. And then the financial literacy training, and then the $2 million is recaptured, and that's what one Lighthouse is. So we're going to see a film that my son created. It's about 12 minutes, so it's a small documentary of ultra poverty, some of the roots that we're unaware of with ultra poverty. When a mother is out of options and they can't pay for their children to go to school, and especially a daughter, they wind up having young child brides. And this is an area in Malawi that we have really started to go after. We have a relationship with Chief Kachita Moto, who is a chief that reversed 5,000 child bride marriages. So we're going to watch this film. The first half of it is in Chichewa. It's the mother's local language because of the education. She had no education. There's subtitles here, so if some of you need to move up, it's I think, as a young person, it's really eye-opening for you to come and hear. So if you want to move up, great. If you don't, that's no problem. And so this is Chief Chinamoto, who we work with there. So after this film, we will go ahead and open it up for some questions. I'm going to sit down as it.
yet to be finished. But my hope is that my children will never have to go through what I went through.
So I'm going to share, before we open it up for questions, I just want to share a story. We started working with Chief Kachitamoto in September, just a little over a year ago, and we've been back a few times. And there is a mother that we went to go visit, and the daughter had been returned home when she was 14. And we gave the daughter a light and the education. The daughter came home and taught up to her mother. Said, Mom, instead of buying back, we're going to save our money, and then in 7 days get a check. And the mother, whose name is Stella, said, these are things I had never heard before. And so Stella started putting her money in the bank, in her little bank, and she said, in 7 days I got a chicken. And then I diversified, and I bought some ducks. And my money kept growing, and then she went out and she bought a rum distillery. Not that I want everybody to go out and buy rum distilleries, but Stella found a need. And she started making rum in her backyard and selling that to the local community. And I went back in August, so this is in 11 months. Stella said to me, I want you to know I now have 2 employees. This is in 11 months. The solar light, we believe in you. And we walked away. And people had vision, that vision board, that financial literacy, that personal empowerment to keep going. But it wasn't Stella that we taught, it was her daughter. So it's generational. She said, and why do child marriages happen? Because parents don't have money to pay for educating the girls. She said, now if I have book fees, I sell a couple eggs. They don't need child sponsorship. They need the opportunity to do it themselves. And so now she's paying for the school. The girls come together at night. They all study. It's incredible to see what's happening. And that simple box, the town that we haven't gotten to yet, has started making their own box, and they're starting to save. So it's changing the communities and the outcomes that we're seeing. So just want to thank you for listening to all of my stories. I want to open it up now if you have any questions. Great.
I think it is very nice that you're helping these people, but, it looks like, chickens and animals, I thought they killed those things for food. Maybe that's what they did before, and now they're able to buy food, and maybe they can have healthier food, meat, yes, but when they accept the eggs from the chicken, and the milk, maybe clothing, but they're still living with dirt. Why?
Well, food is the most important thing that they can start eating, right? And the chickens are multiplying, and they do wind up eating the eggs, they do wind up eating the chickens, and they also have an abundance. Oh.
I thought maybe they would be more vegetarian. If you could teach the people more how to
So they do grow corn, squash, pumpkins, so they do, that's all part of it. Thank you. Sure. Yes, so all of the marriages were reversed with Chief Kachitamoto, so those girls had the opportunity to go back. But, you know, so now the family had 2 mouths to feed. So I'll just share a little bit of the backside of that story. Is when I went to Chief Kachitamoto, before we started distributing the lights, she said, Nancy, the world celebrates that I reversed all these child marriages. But the truth is, the parents don't want the girls. They can't afford them, that's why they sold them. And now they're back, pregnant, abused, and it may have been years. And she said, and I'm telling them, educate your girls, give them books, not husbands. But that comes at a cost the family doesn't have. So the chief said 2 months ago, when I was there a few years ago, she said I had 400 families show up and say, Chief, you take girls. We didn't want them in marriage. You pay for their education because we can't. So it was really causing a lot of conflict. So when I met her, I said, Chief, how about we start to focus on the girls whose marriages were reversed. We'll start giving them life. There's immediate, right? The day they get the light, the day they start saving money. So now the girls can start, it's financial relief for the family. So the girls now all of a sudden kind of became a blessing because they were the first on the list to get the light. So things started to shift. Our focus is on the areas where child bride marriages is high, because that means poverty is also very high. So it's hand in hand that we're working in a strategy in Malawi. But it's not just Malawi, it's a lot of the other countries as well. So yeah, I mean, it's such a big problem. It's where do you start? And light is immediate. It's financial. There's still freedom to make choices, freedom for decisions for the families. And we can do it quickly. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Panel is on the back. So the battery on the inside is stronger than an iPhone 8. So it's kind of like your iPhone, the battery on the inside. But it's charged by the sun, so it goes in the direct sun for 10 to 12 hours every single day. So we created it, and we know that 10 hours is a long time. So with the lanyard, they can now be walking or out in the field and literally have it on top of their head, and it's charging. We want this to stay on them and to be able to be portable and transferable no matter where they are. So it's 10 to 12 hours in direct sun. Stella, who now started multiplying her income, has extra money. We also have a micro USB that comes with it, and it can be charged from electricity or a power source. So in very remote areas, the barber shop is the area that usually has like a generator or some type of electricity for the clippers. So they can go to the barber shop, and she actually has extra income, and it's less than buying batteries, that she can charge it directly within like an hour from the barber shop. So if it's a rainy season, they have a lot of different ways. Or if you have a power bank, right, like a phone charger, very inexpensive power bank, you can plug it into the power bank and also charge the battery that way. So they really figure that out because it's such a need. So yeah, there's a couple different alternatives. The hours, 120 hours, continuous runtime on the lowest setting, 10 hours on the second, 2.5 emergency strobe. That is usually, right, I know, and that's such a great question. That's usually one of the first questions here in America that's asked. And so one of the things that I've always go and make sure that the kerosene dealer or whoever, and I'm like, so what are you going to do? You know, if the kerosene, he's like, sell something else. Like, I mean, he's like, it's, it's so funny because it's so not even a question to them. But it's the first question here in America. Because they're seeing that their entire, receiving a solar light is like every single family has won a lottery. Since the beginning of time, they've lived in darkness, and their entire community. Can you imagine if you've lived in darkness, your whole village, and every house is lit, what that first night is like there? They know what's happening. They see that their children, they're community-based. Our children are getting educated. You know, they'll go now. They'll go at night with their light on their head, and they'll go catch crickets. Crickets is another great way. Like, you know, there's just different things that they do, and they, you know, they may start baking. I have never in 10 years heard that there's a problem. They're like, yeah, well, we stopped selling kerosene here. We've stopped selling batteries. Like, you know, they don't see it as a problem. They see it as really a good thing and a relief. But, thank you. Okay, young people. Any questions? Nothing? Okay, kind of young. Okay.
How did Sean make that movie?
Oh, yeah, okay. So the film Ukwati, on our link tree or whatever that is up there, and you can download it and watch it. It has won about 25 international awards. So my son, Sean, is a storyteller and felt like this was a story that needed to be told. Personally, I'm very proud of it because it doesn't exploit any situations. It really shares kind of the behind the scenes. But he went there and worked with the Chief Kachitamoto. Every community was like, these stories need to be told. We need more lights to help prevent, you know, they see this as a solution. So the towns and the communities got behind Sean, and literally in a matter of weeks, he was like, hey, can you act? You know, you'd be great. Like, he literally went into the village and just used local people. He wrote this script after we interviewed about 10 child bride marriages and got the stories from the girls. We didn't want to use one of the girls. And so through those, what you saw was not a child bride. It was one of the community, but the stories was all the pieces that were told to Sean. So yeah, it was amazing how he put it all together.
What kind of press do you get, like nationwide?
So there's an article back there by Axios. The gentleman Jim Vanderhey, who's the founder of Axios, is an online news article. He came with us in July and wrote an article that really simplifies and shares the impact that he saw. We've had a few articles. We are the only non-for-profit that is giving out something so valuable and the financial literacy and combining it. Solar has always been looked as, we're not going to give it out for free. We're going to charge or a microloan. And I think there's a case for both, but for me personally, I look at it and I think, you know what, when I started Watts of Love, I was struggling financially, tremendously. And somebody donated an entire building to me. And that was free. And I can tell you, every day I walk in there, I'm like, I'm the most blessed person in the world because of this. I don't ever take it for granted. The people that we give the light to, we're asking them to spend the day there to change their mindset, to have a bigger dream, and you're going to this is your only chance. Now, do some things happen? For sure. But the majority of the people value the opportunity that they have been given. And so I think I see you. You're loved. You're valuable. We're going to give you this tool to change your life. Is very different than, here you go, here you go. And I think that combination We're illuminating their homes, we're illuminating their minds, and we're illuminating their hearts. And that's how you're going to get transformation. Yeah, great. So Chris in the back, she's a volunteer coordinator, but travel will be taking some teams this summer. We also have a trip to Malawi in the beginning of May. You may be in school. For young people, I'm going to tell you, with my own children, it is the best investment in yourself to have an experience cross-culturally, an impact. Not just go, I know churches need to be painted or schools need to be painted in other countries, but a lot of times we're the problem. We'll go into communities and paint a school and they'll watch. When you go in and truly empower people and give them something with dignity, it is a story as a young person, as you're applying for colleges, you will have a story that will set you apart for life if you have an experience like this. So, yeah, I just encourage you to, whether it's Watts of Love or anything else, to have some type of experience like that. Yes? No. If you know Bill, I'd love to talk to him. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, introductions, like volunteers, like handwritten notes. If somebody's made a donation, I love handwritten notes because we've stewarded. So Watts of Love was started at me speaking at small churches, friends and family, like it was on the radio. You know, there's not a big donor behind us. So we've had very loyal, faithful donors, and a little bit at a time, which has been a huge blessing. But we're looking for scale, so we're doing a lot of things right now, monitoring and evaluation, and trying to get to the next level. It's been interesting with some of the larger donors. And I'm going to say this to young people: don't give up. You have a great idea. No matter what people say to you, keep moving forward. I've talked to large foundations where they're like, yeah, your solution is too simple. You walk in, you give somebody a solar light and a piece of paper, and you walk away, and they're changing their life. I'm like, yep. I don't think the greatest minds would ever think that this could work, but I'm telling you it does. So for me, I want lights in the hands of people. And I haven't been willing until now to take, and I'll be very blunt, to take a chunk of money. I'm going to do monitoring and evaluation with everything that I've seen. Because I see, no matter what it is, money, it's lights or a piece of paper. I'm investing in the paper in 2023 because I want to get to the next level. So we are, but any introductions with any foundations, families, friends, I welcome corporations. I love corporations. Come and be a part of it. Global travel, so many different ways. Some on a radio, newspaper, anything. We would love any connection.
You were telling me a story presentation about the elephants.
Oh, yeah.
Could you do that story again?
Yeah.
Are there any other stories that, besides just the education?
Okay, well, I'll order in lunch because I've got a lot of stories. But yeah, no, so, again, young people, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I created this, and you don't always know the impact, really, I believe, how God is going to use you. And I put that flashing strobe on the light, and I thought, oh, well, in case there's an emergency, there's a strobe light. Well, the way that this is being used globally is unbelievable. In Malawi, we worked with African parks, so they have an area where they have elephants, like 500 elephants, and every single night the elephants are breaking out of this big electric fence. Why? Because there's substance farmers who are growing watermelon, pumpkins. Well, guess who wants to eat the watermelon and pumpkins? Is the elephants. So they're breaking out every night. And a substance farmer is a person who grows all their food for a year for their family. So the elephant breaks out, comes to your field, starts eating your corn or your pumpkins, and the people want to kill the elephant because it's either my family or the elephant. And so there's a lot of conflict. But guess what elephants are afraid of? A bright flashing light. And they remember where the bright flashing light is. So I've started working with African parks, and we're starting with the closest people living up against the electric fence. And you're talking about 50,000 homes. So I have a big job, and that's at one park. It's monumental. But where are the elephants breaking out the most? Where are the communities? So we've started going there and bringing the lights to the it's in complete darkness. They hear the elephants at night. They go out, they scare the elephant away, and then they're trying to wrangle the elephants back into the park. So now African parks used to give the locals fireworks to throw at the elephants. So now they can use the flashing strobe light. Oh, the elephants are over there. And then, and you can hear the people yelling, but now they can actually see where to go. So it's in conjunction with those, and it's better for the elephants. It's better for the people. It's better, it just.
The elephants are very smart. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful with elephants.
Oh yeah. Well, guess what? They remember where the flashing strobe is. The other thing, I want to tell you another fun story, because there's the Ngoni tribe, which is a warrior tribe from South Africa that's now living in Malawi. They were sharing with me, because I'll ask stories, because we'll never hear these stories. So I'm like, tell me a story that I may never hear. And they're like, oh, well, every night the hyenas would come into our community and eat a goat every night. They no longer, well, they'd find one goat, usually about one goat a night they would eat on average. The hyenas are also afraid of the bright flashing light. They said since the lights have been in that community, they haven't had any hyenas. They've scared them off to another community. So it's just, so how do you start calculating one goat a night is not being eaten, or chickens, or things like that? In Kenya, there's women who live along the riverbank in Lake Victoria, and the hippos come out and eat. They have like a little substance farm, like they grow corn next to their house. Well, the hippos would come out and eat the corn. So now the hippos know that there's a bright flashing light. So it's just interesting with the wildlife, how it works. It's also disaster preparedness. Light is a tool at the time of a disaster that that can be used, and the flashing strobe is something that, I was sharing with Joel. We do a lot of work we were doing a lot of work in Israel with Zaka, who's like kind of the American Red Cross of Israel. And this was something that they were using for all of their volunteers, that they would go in after there was any type of disaster in Israel, and they would use these lights. They also, Rabbi was sharing with me that the light of Jerusalem was carried into Brazil after the mudslide. Like they carried our lights into Brazil and Ethiopia after a plane crash. So there's a lot of things that we do. It's not just the financial literacy. There's other ways to partner with us. Yeah. But I'm going to, it goes to that. But I have corporations that sponsor the Navajo Nation. It's not quite the financial impact that it is like in Africa and other areas, but it's safety. If there's a problem, you can find a person. If there's a problem, the helicopter can locate you. Like and they're so remote. So we're working with the disaster preparedness in the Navajo Nation. We've also responded in Louisiana, Puerto Rico. Yeah, yeah. Everything is manufactured in China. I've tried like the Dickens to get it made, and you can't, in here in America. I actually was working with a manufacturing in Washington, D.C., manufacturing for the blind. So I thought, oh, this is perfect. Like, let's start doing that together. And COVID happened, and constantly looking. But we do have UL, which is Underwriter Laboratories. They certified the lights so it's the safest light. And we're asking them, and again, for the last 3 years, COVID has shut down, but we're looking at South Africa. Ideally, I would love to have them made in Africa because I don't have to ship it. And so it's a process. And we're time and talent, but we are. If you know somebody in manufacturing, anywhere in the world, please make a connection. I would love it. Thank you.
Can you describe a little bit what somebody does when they go on a trip with you?
Yeah, so I have 2 goals on a trip. Number 1, to fall in love with the people. Number 2, to fall in love with the country. So when we go in, we will have 3 to 4 days of distributing. So you saw like there might be 1,000 people, and our job as the Americans is to come in and serve our local team there. So you'll sit down with a local person, so you'll be partnered up with a local Malawian, and you'll have maybe a group of 10 people. And when you're doing the individual training, because people push and hold, may take 15 minutes to teach somebody that, but that's your job, to sit down. Opening the box is challenging for people. They've never seen a box. So it's all of those simple things, opening up, how to clip this together. It's sitting down, teaching people, helping them identify their dreams, cheering them on. It is really our goal for the Americans to come. And then we go back and we hear testimonies. So we'll get a community that received lights like maybe a year ago. You may hear some sad stories. My light got stolen. But guess what? I had enough chickens that I went and bought another solar light. And that's the goal, right? Or we'll hear, I have a thatched roof. I went from a thatched roof to a tin roof. And we want to celebrate with their accomplishments. And that's the best day as a traveler, to go and hear those things. I try and do a community lunch where we have food together and you can hear stories, we can ask questions. And then the last day or 2, we'll usually do a cultural experience, whether we might go on a riverboat safari, maybe a beach day or something like that, so you see the beauty of the country.
You said that some are stolen. Is that a big problem? And what do they do with the stolen?
Sure.
Do they use it for good, or do they do something else?
Well, I think that's where the teaching comes in. People have choices. If you leave it out, it will be stolen. If you keep it on your body, the odds of that happening are less.
That was our last question because it's the end of the day here. Ooh, forgot my microphone. Thank you so much, Nancy, for joining us. Wow. Just amazing, and we can't wait to hear what is going to be happening with your organization. I'm sure absolutely fabulous things are going to continue to happen. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice afternoon.
Sorry, students, it's a lot that we just heard. A lot about initiative and empowerment and possibility. So think about these things and think with your teachers about all that might be possible and all you might have been inspired to hear. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you, thank you.